Hey guys, sorry I'm not there with you for class this afternoon. We would have done this as a lesson together, but instead I'll have to record the video here. Not feeling too well, so hopefully I'll feel better tomorrow. But anyway, so we learned last week, I guess on Friday, the percent proportion, using the percent proportion, which, as I said, is a way that you can solve every percent problem. You can set up the percent proportion, part over whole equals percent over 100, and cross multiply and do any percent problem like that. However, I will also say that that is not the most efficient way to do percent problems, and it is not how I do most percent calculations. Instead, there are a couple of shortcuts, and some of them you probably already know. Okay, so the percent equation is another way to solve percent problems. Okay, and basically the percent equation rewrites the percent proportion. Okay, so you start, I'm on page 261 in the book. Part over whole equals percent over 100. And instead of writing percent over 100, you change this to a decimal, right? So the percent divided by 100 is the percent then as a decimal. And you get that by moving the decimal point 2 places to the left, right? So when you write the percent as a decimal, you can then use it in what's called the percent equation, which is part equals percent times whole. Part equals percent times whole. And when you distill down any percent problem, you can always say any percent problem as part is percent of whole. Like 3 is 20% of what? Or what is 10% of 32? Or 62 is what percent of 100? So any percent problem can be reworded to match the percent equation. And the is in that sentence is the equal sign. The percent is written as a decimal, critically important, right? That's the thing you cannot forget, okay, that the percent is as a decimal when you are using the percent equation. And the word of, as it does with all percents and fractions, the word of means multiplication. Okay, so using this equation, you can also solve any percent problem. And with a calculator, these are much quicker than having to write out the percent proportion. All right, so let's take a look at the 3 different types of problems. The first one, find the percent. Find the percent of a number. Okay, so if you're given the percent and the whole, what's 62% of 75? First, they give you this estimate here with a fraction. I wouldn't do it. 60% of 75 is about 40, right? 66 times 7, because 10% rule, like we talked about on Tuesday, right? So anyway, that you do that in your head to check reasonableness at the end. All right, but you can set up the equation here, and the book goes through all the gobbledygook here of, okay, well, we'll let A represent the part. And the percent equation is part equals percent times whole. And we don't know the part A. And so that equals the percent as a decimal times the whole. That's what you do. Change the percent to a decimal and multiply by the whole. Way faster than writing this equation, way faster than setting up the percent proportion. You just, in your calculator, 0.62 times 75. Boom, 46.5. Okay, so this is the method for finding the percent of a number. And you got this discussion in the Math Antics video yesterday or during cohort time. Okay, so some got it's 60% of 96. So in your calculator, you're going to put 0.6 times 96. Convert the percent to a decimal and multiply. 60% of 96 is 57.6. Yeah, a little more than half. Okay, makes sense. Reasonable. 45% of 70. So in your calculator, 0.45 times 70 and that equals 31.5, a little less than half of 70. Okay, so this is really the quick way to get the percent of a number. What's 32% of 100? Or well, that's too easy. 30% of 52? 0.32 times 52. So convert the percent to a decimal and multiply. That's how to find the part. Next one, finding the percent. Okay, so you're given the part and the whole, and what's the percent? So this is like your grade calculations. Okay, the whole is 287 is what percent of 410? So let's say this was a test and you scored 287 points out of a possible 410 points. What is your score as a percent? 300 over 400, about 75%, right? About 3/4 is your estimate, rounding these numbers to easy numbers to do in your head. Okay, you do not have to write that down ever, but you always should do that to check that your final answer makes sense. Is it reasonable? Because if you mess up mashing the buttons on your calculator, then checking for reasonableness will identify that problem. Okay, so again, they go through setting up the equation here. So 287 equals part times 410. It's a one-step multiplication equation. Divide both sides by 410. I am not going to require you to do this because, one, we haven't really learned equations yet. And two, I don't do that. I just divide in my calculator, part divided by whole, and the answer comes out as the percent as a decimal. So 287 divided by 410 is 0.7. So then you convert 0.7 to a percent by moving the decimal point 2 places, and the answer is 70%. Certainly close to 3/4, like we said, was reasonable. Okay, so this again, very quick way to find the percent when you're given the part and the whole, like a test score. So you got 15 out of 125. What percent is that? So in your calculator, you are going to do 15 divided by 125 as a decimal. You get your answer, which will be the decimal form, 0.12. And so that's 12%. 15 out of 125, 12%. To be 20 is what percent of 400? You could do this one mentally, but all right. So in your calculator, again, 20 divided by 400, you get 0.05. And then you convert 0.05 to a percent by moving the decimal point 2 places, right? And you get 5%. 5%, 20 out of 400. Okay, so again, this is the way I always find percent when I'm given the part and the whole. Just divide part divided by whole, and then in your calculator it says 0.32. That's 32%. Okay, because that conversion from decimal to percent should be automatic. Move the decimal point 2 places. The last type of problem, find the whole. And I will admit that I don't always use the percent equation to find the whole. Sometimes I set up the percent proportion because I can get a little bit confused. Okay, the percent equation doesn't work quite so easily. Boom, you get your answer like you do in the find the part or find the percent. Okay, so 33 is 55% of what number? So it's about half. So it should be somewhere around 60 something, right? If you just look for reasonableness, something around 60. Substitute into the percent equation, 33 equals is 0.55% as a decimal times of the whole. Okay, so here, yeah, you have again a one-step equation, a one-step division or multiplication equation, and need to divide, but this time you're dividing by the decimal form of the percent. So take the part and divide by the decimal form of the percent. That gives you the whole. So 33 divided by 0.55 comes out to 60. So the whole is 60. Again, this one is not as obvious. It's also not as common, right? Way more common to find the percent or find percent of a number than it is to find the whole. All right, so a couple examples here, finding the whole. 18 is 30% of what? So the short, you could write out the equation here. I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'm going to just instead know that when I'm given the percent and the part, right? And how do you know this is the part? Because the what number comes after the word of. That means I'm looking for the whole. I don't know the number after the word of, so I'm looking for the whole. And so I'm going to do 18 divided by 0.3. 18 divided by the percent written as a decimal, and that's going to give me an answer of 60. So 18 is 30% of 60. 79 is 80% of what? This answer should be pretty close to 100, right? 79 is 80% of something close to 100, since 79 is really close to 80. 79 divided by 0.8. 79 divided by the percent written as a decimal. And the answer is 98.75. Very close to 100. 98.75. Okay. Sometimes you'll round these. You'll be given rounding instructions, or you round to what's reasonable. All right. And that's it. That's the percent equation. So now you're saying to yourself, oh, man, this is way easier. And it is way easier. Okay. I always use to find the percent, part divided by whole, and then convert the answer from my calculator to percent. To find the part, multiply the percent as a decimal times the whole. Find the whole, divide the part by the percent as a decimal. And this one, it's kind of harder to remember. I think these first two, finding the percent and finding the part, are much more intuitive, right? Much more intuitive as to what you're supposed to do with the numbers. The key in using these shortcuts, the percent equation, is that the percent is always, always, always written as the decimal form. Okay, you always use the decimal form of the percent when you are doing the percent equation. All right, so we'll do some practice on this stuff, and then next week we'll look at some real world examples of using percents.